The woman was wearing my robe. Simone Crawford sat frozen in her car, parked 3 blocks from her own house, watching the footage on her laptop. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m. Tuesday, while she had been at a client meeting downtown. The woman walked through Simone's living room like she belonged there, her bare feet padding across the hardwood floors that Simone had picked out herself 7 years ago. The robe was the silk one, the deep burgundy one Brandon had given her for their 5th anniversary. The one she kept hanging on the bathroom door because she loved how the fabric felt against her skin on lazy Sunday mornings. This woman, whoever she was, had taken it off that hook, had wrapped it around her body, had tied the belt the way Simone always did, with a simple knot at the waist. Simone watched as the woman walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, took out the orange juice, the expensive kind Simone bought from the organic market, drank straight from the carton. The footage continued. The woman set down the juice and turned toward the hallway, toward the bedroom, Simone's bedroom. And then Brandon appeared in the frame, coming from that same hallway wearing only his boxers. He walked up behind the woman and wrapped his arms around her waist, kissed her neck. They laughed about something Simone could not hear because the cameras only recorded video, not audio. She had installed them 3 weeks ago after the feeling started. That gnawing sensation in her gut that something was wrong. The way Brandon's phone was always face down now. The business trips that seemed to multiply. The smell of perfume on his collar that he explained away as a client's wife being overly friendly at a dinner. Simone had told herself she was being paranoid. She had told herself that 8 years of marriage meant something. That the man who had held her hand through her father's funeral, who had supported her when she started her interior design business, who had promised her forever in front of 200 guests at their wedding, would never betray her. But the feeling would not go away. So she bought 3 small cameras from an electronics store across town, paying cash so it would not show up on their joint credit card. She hid one in the living room bookshelf, one in the kitchen behind a decorative vase, and one in the hallway near the bedroom door. Motion activated. Wireless. Uploading directly to a cloud server only she could access. For 3 weeks, she had checked the footage every night after Brandon fell asleep. For 3 weeks, she had seen nothing but empty rooms and their cat, Mango, jumping on counters he was not supposed to be on. And then today. Simone closed the laptop. Her hands were shaking. She looked at them, these hands that had built a successful business, that had created beautiful spaces for countless clients, that had worn a wedding ring for 8 years. The ring felt heavy now. Foreign. Like it belonged to someone else. She picked up her phone and looked at the screen. 3 missed calls from Brandon. A text message, "Hey babe, running late at the office. Don't wait up for dinner. Love you." Running late at the office. Simone laughed, but there was no humor in it. The sound came out broken, jagged, like glass shattering on concrete. She had watched him kiss that woman at 2:47 p.m. It was now 6:23 p.m. What had they been doing for the past 3.5 hours in her house, in her bed, wearing her robe? She could drive home right now. Walk through the front door. Scream. Throw things. Demand answers. That was what the old Simone would have done. The Simone who trusted her husband. The Simone who believed in the life they had built together. But that Simone was gone now. She had died somewhere between frame 1 and frame 147 of that footage. The new Simone sat very still in her car and thought. Brandon did not know about the cameras. He did not know that she had seen everything. He did not know that his carefully constructed lies were crumbling, but only in her mind, only where he could not see. And maybe, Simone thought, maybe that was an advantage. She remembered something her mother had told her years ago, when Simone was young and hot-headed and ready to fight anyone who wronged her. Baby girl, her mother had said, anger is like fire. You can let it burn everything down, including yourself. Or you can learn to control it. Use it. Let it forge something stronger. Simone wiped her eyes. She had not even realized she was crying. The tears had come silently, sliding down her cheeks while she watched her marriage end on a laptop screen in a parked car. She took a deep breath. Then another. Then a third. She was not going to burn everything down. Not yet. Not like this. She was going to be smart. She was going to be patient. She was going to find out exactly how deep this betrayal went, and then only then would she decide what to do. Simone started her car and began driving home. By the time she pulled into the driveway, her face showed nothing. No tears. No rage. No heartbreak. Just the calm, pleasant expression of a woman coming home after a long day of work. Brandon's car was not there. Of course it was not. He was running late at the office. She walked inside. The living room looked exactly as it always did. The kitchen was spotless. The orange juice was back in the refrigerator. The burgundy robe was hanging on the bathroom door as if it had never moved. But Simone knew. She knew what these rooms had witnessed. She knew what secrets these walls now held. She walked to the bookshelf and glanced at the small camera hidden behind a row of books. It was invisible unless you knew where to look. She thought about the footage it had captured today. The footage she had saved to 3 different backup locations. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Brandon, "On my way home now. Should I pick up Thai food?" Simone typed back, "That sounds perfect. Give me the pad Thai. Love you." Her finger hovered over the send button. Love you. 2 words she had said thousands of times. 2 words that now felt like ash in her mouth. She pressed send. When Brandon came home an hour later, Simone was sitting on the couch in a bright blue dress, her natural hair styled in the twist she had done last weekend, looking every bit the happy wife waiting for her husband. He kissed her cheek and handed her the takeout bag. They ate dinner together at the kitchen table, and Simone listened to him talk about his day at work, his meetings, his projects. He did not mention the woman. He did not mention the burgundy robe. He did not mention the 3.5 hours of the afternoon that had simply vanished from his story. "How was your day?" he asked, reaching across the table to take her hand. Simone smiled. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. "It was good," she said. "Nothing special. Just the usual." And that night, when Brandon fell asleep beside her, Simone lay awake in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, planning. She did not know yet what her revenge would look like. She did not know how long it would take or what it would cost her. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Brandon Crawford had made the biggest mistake of his life. He just did not know it yet. 3 days passed. Then a week. Then 2. Simone moved through her life like an actress in a play she had performed 1,000 times. She woke up next to Brandon. Made coffee. Kissed him goodbye. Went to work. Came home. Cooked dinner. Watched television. Went to bed. Every night, after Brandon's breathing became slow and steady, she would slip out of bed and go to her home office. She would open her laptop and review the camera footage from that day. She would watch the empty rooms. The cat. The sunlight moving across the floors as the hours passed. Most days there was nothing. Brandon left for work in the morning and did not return until evening. The house sat silent and still, holding its secrets. But some days there was something. The woman came back on a Thursday, 10 days after Simone first saw her. This time, she arrived while Brandon's car was already in the driveway, which meant he had come home in the middle of the day. Simone watched them embrace in the living room. Watched them disappear down the hallway. Watched them emerge 2 hours later, the woman wearing different clothes than she had arrived in. Simone noted the time stamps. The duration. The way Brandon walked the woman to the door and kissed her one last time before she left. She created a folder on her laptop called House Renovation Ideas and stored all the footage there. She made copies on 2 different flash drives and hid them in her office at work, one in her desk drawer and one in a locked filing cabinet. Evidence. That was what she was gathering. Cold, hard, undeniable evidence. But she needed more than footage of an affair. She needed to understand the full scope of what Brandon had done. Where he had been spending his money. What lies he had told. How deep the deception really went. Simone started paying attention to things she had never noticed before. The way Brandon always paid for dinner with a credit card she had never seen. The business receipts he crumpled and threw away instead of filing with his other paperwork. The phone calls he took in another room, his voice dropping to a whisper. One evening, while Brandon was in the shower, Simone picked up his phone from the nightstand. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She knew his password, the same one he had used for years, their wedding anniversary. She opened his messages. Scrolled through. Found a conversation with someone named T that made her stomach turn. "Miss you already," the last message read. "Next Tuesday?" "Can't wait," Brandon had replied. With a heart emoji. Simone took screenshots. Sent them to her own phone. Deleted the sent messages so Brandon would not see. Then she put the phone back exactly where she had found it and walked to the kitchen to pour herself a glass of wine. When Brandon emerged from the shower, she was sitting at the kitchen counter, calm and composed, reading a magazine about home design. "You okay, babe?" he asked. "You look a little pale." "Just tired," she said. "Long day." He walked over and rubbed her shoulders. She forced herself not to flinch. "You work too hard," he said. "We should take a vacation. Maybe go back to that resort in Cancun we loved." Simone thought about the resort. Their 5-year anniversary trip. The way Brandon had held her hand as they walked on the beach at sunset, telling her he was the luckiest man in the world. "That sounds nice," she said. It was getting easier to lie. That scared her more than anything. The next day, Simone called her best friend Rhonda and asked if they could meet for lunch. Not at their usual place, she said. Somewhere private. Somewhere they could talk. They met at a small cafe on the other side of town, far from anywhere Brandon might see them. Rhonda was already there when Simone arrived, sitting at a corner table, her bold patterned dress bright against the neutral decor of the restaurant. Rhonda took one look at Simone's face and her expression changed from curious to concerned. "What happened?" she asked. Simone sat down. She had rehearsed this conversation in her head a dozen times, but now that the moment was here, she did not know where to begin. "I need to show you something," she finally said. She pulled out her phone and handed it to Rhonda. "Watch this." Rhonda watched the footage. Simone saw her friend's face go through every emotion she herself had felt 2 weeks ago. Disbelief. Horror. Rage. When it was over, Rhonda looked up. Her eyes were wet. "Simone," she breathed. "How long have you known?" 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Rhonda's voice rose. "You've known for 2 weeks and you haven't said anything? You haven't confronted him? You haven't kicked him out?" "I'm not going to kick him out," Simone said quietly. "Not yet." Rhonda stared at her. "What do you mean, not yet?" Simone leaned forward. "I need to know everything first. How long this has been going on. Who this woman is. Where the money has been going. Because I checked our joint accounts, Rhonda. There's money missing. Thousands of dollars I can't account for." "Money?" Rhonda shook her head. "Simone, he's sleeping with another woman in your bed. Who cares about the money?" "I do." Simone's voice was hard. "Because when I leave him, and I will leave him, I'm not going to walk away with nothing. He's not going to steal my home, my savings, my future. He's already stolen my trust. He's already stolen my peace. He doesn't get to take anything else." Rhonda was silent for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took Simone's hand. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Simone felt something loosen in her chest. Until that moment, she had been carrying this alone. The weight of it had been crushing her. But now Rhonda was here, steady and strong, ready to help. "I need you to help me stay sane," Simone said. "I need someone to talk to. Someone who knows the truth. Because pretending everything is fine is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I don't know how much longer I can do it alone." "You're not alone," Rhonda said. "You were never alone. I'm here. Whatever you need. Whatever it takes." They sat in that cafe for 3 hours. Simone told Rhonda everything. The cameras. The footage. The text messages. The missing money. Her suspicions that this had been going on much longer than she originally thought. By the time they left, Simone had a plan. Not a complete one, not yet, but the beginnings of something. She was going to find out exactly who this woman was. She was going to trace every dollar Brandon had spent on her. She was going to build a case so airtight that when the time came, he would have nowhere to hide. And then, when she was ready, she was going to burn his perfect little life to the ground. Her name was Tiffany Morris. It took Simone another week to find that out. She had started by looking through Brandon's work contacts, the ones listed on the company website. He worked for a commercial real estate development firm and his team was small. Simone studied every female face, comparing them to the woman in her footage. She found her in the administrative staff section. Tiffany Morris, executive assistant. 29 years old, based on a quick search of public records. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. A smile that looked practiced, polished, professional. Simone stared at that photo for a long time. So this was the woman her husband had chosen. Not someone exotic or mysterious. Just an ordinary woman who answered phones and scheduled meetings. An ordinary woman who had looked at a married man and decided she did not care about the ring on his finger. Simone saved the photo to her house renovation ideas folder. She added it to the timeline she was building, a document that tracked every instance of contact between Brandon and Tiffany that she could verify. The timeline was growing longer by the day. Through careful observation, Simone had figured out the pattern. Tiffany came to the house on Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually around 2 p.m., when Simone was guaranteed to be at work. Sometimes she stayed for an hour. Sometimes 3. Once she stayed until almost 6 p.m., leaving just 20 minutes before Simone usually got home. They were getting careless. Or maybe they had always been this bold and Simone had just never thought to look. The financial picture was becoming clearer too. Simone had found the credit card, the one Brandon used for business expenses. It was in his name only, the statements going to a P.O. box she had never known existed. She only discovered it by accident, when she found a receipt in his pants pocket while doing laundry. A receipt for dinner at a restaurant Simone had never been to, in a part of town she rarely visited, for a meal that cost $300. For 2 people. Simone took that receipt and started digging. She found the P.O. box by following Brandon one Saturday morning, keeping several car lengths behind, her heart racing the whole time. He stopped at a strip mall, went into a private mailbox store and came out with a stack of envelopes. After he left, Simone went inside and talked to the clerk. She played the concerned wife, worried about her husband's health, needing to check if his important medical documents were being delivered properly. The clerk, a young man who clearly did not get paid enough to question a crying woman, told her the box had been open for 18 months. 18 months. That was how long Brandon had been hiding things from her. Maybe longer. Simone went home and sat in her car for 30 minutes before she could bring herself to go inside. 18 months. A year and a half of lies. Of deception. Of looking her in the eye and telling her he loved her while spending hundreds, maybe thousands, of dollars on another woman. She thought about the things she had given up during that time. The vacation to Europe she had wanted to take, but Brandon said they could not afford. The new car she needed but kept putting off because their finances were tight. The savings account that never seemed to grow no matter how much she contributed. Where had all that money gone? Simone was starting to get a very ugly picture. That night she called Rhonda. "I need a lawyer," she said. "A good one. Someone who specializes in divorce and financial fraud." "I know someone," Rhonda said without hesitation. "My cousin went through a terrible divorce 2 years ago. Her lawyer got her everything. I'll get you his name." The lawyer was Lawrence Mitchell, a man in his 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through everything. His office was downtown on the 22nd floor of a building with a view of the entire city. When Simone walked in for her first consultation, she felt like she was stepping into another world. A world where people fought with paperwork instead of fists. She told Lawrence everything. Showed him the footage. The timeline. The credit card receipt. The P.O. box. He listened without interrupting. When she was finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "Your husband has been very foolish," he said. "And very sloppy. That's good for us." "Good how?" "Because he thinks he's being careful. He thinks no one knows. That kind of overconfidence leads to mistakes." Lawrence picked up a pen and started writing. "Here's what we're going to do. First, we need to get a complete picture of his finances. All of them. The ones you know about and the ones you don't. I have people who can help with that." "Isn't that illegal?" Simone asked. Lawrence smiled. "We're going to do everything by the book. Your husband opened that credit card during your marriage, which means you have a legal right to know about it. Your husband has been diverting marital assets, which means you have a legal right to trace them. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just uncovering the truth." Simone nodded. The truth. That was all she wanted. "Second," Lawrence continued, "we need to protect your assets. Your business. Your personal accounts. Anything that's solely in your name. We need to make sure he can't touch it when this all comes out." "When, not if." "When." Lawrence's voice was firm. "Because it will come out, Simone. This kind of thing always does. The only question is whether you're in control of the narrative or he is. Right now you have the advantage. You know what's happening. He doesn't know you know. That gives us time to prepare." Simone spent the next 2 hours with Lawrence, going over every detail of her financial life. Her business accounts. Her personal savings. The house, which was in both their names. The retirement accounts. The investments. By the time she left his office, she had a plan. A real one this time. Complete with steps and timelines and contingencies. She also had a retainer agreement and a bill that made her eyes water. But Lawrence had looked her in the eye and said something that made it worth every penny. "I've seen cases like this before," he had said. "The cheating husband who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. The wife who's supposed to be too trusting, too naive, too emotional to fight back. I've seen those men lose everything. And I've seen those women walk away with their dignity and their future intact. That's what we're going to do for you, Simone. We're going to make sure you come out of this hole." Simone believed him. When she got home that evening, Brandon was already there, sitting on the couch, watching sports on television. He smiled when she walked in. "Hey babe. Long day." "Very long," she said. "I had some meetings run over." She did not mention the lawyer. She did not mention the plan. She just kissed him on the cheek and went to the kitchen to start dinner, her mind racing with everything she had learned, everything she was about to do. The game was changing. And Brandon did not even know he was playing. The financial investigator Lawrence hired was a woman named Patricia, a former IRS auditor who had a talent for finding money that people wanted to hide. She was quiet, methodical, and utterly relentless. Within 2 weeks, she had uncovered things that made Simone's blood run cold. Brandon had been siphoning money from their joint accounts for over 2 years. Small amounts at first, $50 here, $100 there, easily explained away as cash withdrawals for everyday expenses. But over time the amounts had grown. 200, 500, 1,000. He had opened 3 credit cards in his name only, all during their marriage. The combined balance was nearly $40,000. $40,000 in debt that Simone had known nothing about, all of it spent on restaurants, hotels, jewelry, and gifts that had never come home to her. There was also a savings account. A secret one at a bank across town, where Brandon had been depositing money from his commission checks. Not all of them, just the ones that came from smaller deals, the ones Simone never asked about. That account had nearly $25,000 in it. $25,000 that should have been theirs. That should have been going toward their future. Their retirement. The children they had talked about having someday. Instead, it was sitting in an account she was never supposed to know about, waiting for Brandon to use however he wanted. Simone sat in Lawrence's office, looking at the spreadsheets Patricia had prepared, and felt something inside her go very quiet and very cold. "He's been planning this," she said. "Hasn't he? The secret accounts. The credit cards. He's been building an escape route." Lawrence nodded slowly. "It looks that way. Whether he was planning to leave you or just preparing for the possibility, I can't say. But this level of financial deception doesn't happen by accident." Simone thought about the conversations they had had over the years. The times Brandon had said they needed to tighten their belts. The times he had talked about how expensive everything was, how they needed to be careful, how they could not afford the things Simone wanted. All while he was spending thousands on another woman. All while he was building a safety net for himself and only himself. "What do we do now?" she asked. "Now we start protecting you," Lawrence said. "I've already drawn up the paperwork to separate your business assets from the marriage. Your interior design company is yours, built with your own efforts and your own money. We're going to make sure it stays that way. And the house. That's more complicated. It's in both your names and you still have a mortgage. But given the financial fraud he's committed, we have a strong case for a larger share of the equity. Possibly even full ownership if we can prove he diverted marital assets." Simone nodded. The house. The same house where Brandon had brought his mistress. Where he had let another woman wear Simone's robe, drink from Simone's orange juice, sleep in Simone's bed. Part of her wanted to burn it to the ground. But a larger part wanted to keep it. To reclaim it. To make it hers again the way it should have been all along. "I want the house," she said. "And I want him out of it." "We'll make that happen," Lawrence promised. Over the next few weeks, Simone worked with Lawrence and Patricia to build her case. They documented everything. Every transaction. Every secret account. Every lie Brandon had told about their finances. They also found something unexpected. Tiffany Morris had her own credit card on one of Brandon's accounts. He had added her as an authorized user 6 months ago. She had been using it to buy clothes, shoes, handbags, beauty treatments. Thousands of dollars of purchases, all billed to an account Simone was legally responsible for. When Simone saw that, she had to put down the documents and take a walk around the block. The rage that surged through her was so intense she could taste it, hot and metallic on her tongue. Not only was Brandon cheating on her. Not only was he lying to her. He was letting his mistress spend their money. He was putting Simone in debt to finance another woman's lifestyle. When she came back to Lawrence's office, her face was calm but her eyes were hard. "I want her name on the record," she said. "When we file for divorce, I want everyone to know what she did. What they both did." Lawrence hesitated. That could get messy. Public accusations, potential defamation claims? "I don't care." Simone's voice was steady. "She knew he was married. She came to my home. She wore my clothes. She spent my money. I want her to face consequences." Lawrence studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right. We'll name her in the filing. But Simone, I need you to be prepared. This is going to be painful. Once you file, everything comes out. Your private life becomes public record. People will talk. Judge. Take sides. Let them," Simone said. "I have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm not the one who betrayed my vows. I'm not the one who lied for 2 years. I'm not the one who stole from my own family." She meant every word. That night, Simone went home and watched Brandon sleep. He lay on his side of the bed, his face peaceful, his breathing deep and even. He had no idea that his world was about to collapse. No idea that the woman lying next to him had spent the last month building a case that would destroy everything he had worked to hide. For a moment, just a moment, Simone felt something close to pity. He looked so young when he slept. So innocent. So much like the man she had married 8 years ago, the one who had promised to love and cherish her forever. But then she remembered the footage. The text messages. The secret accounts. The credit card with another woman's name on it. And the pity disappeared, replaced by something harder, sharper, more determined. Simone got out of bed and went to her home office. She opened her laptop and pulled up the folder of evidence. Hundreds of files now. Footage. Screenshots. Bank statements. Credit card records. A complete picture of her husband's betrayal, organized and cataloged and ready to be used. She saved everything to a new flash drive and hid it in the false bottom of a decorative box on her shelf. Another backup. Another layer of protection. Then she closed the laptop and went back to bed. Soon, she thought. Soon it would all be over. Soon she would be free. But not yet. Not quite yet. She still had work to do. The hardest part was the pretending. Every morning Simone woke up next to Brandon and smiled. Every evening she cooked dinner and asked about his day. Every night she lay in bed and felt his arm around her waist, heavy and possessive, and she did not scream. She was living 2 lives now. The one Brandon saw, where she was the loving wife, the supportive partner, the woman who trusted him completely. And the one underneath, where she was counting down the days until she could rip off the mask and show him what she had become. The strain was starting to show. Not on her face, not where Brandon could see it. But in other ways. She was losing weight. Having trouble sleeping. Forgetting things at work that she never would have forgotten before. Rhonda noticed. Of course she did. You need to take care of yourself, Rhonda said one Saturday afternoon. They were sitting in Simone's living room drinking tea, while Brandon was out at what he claimed was a golf game. You're running yourself into the ground. I can't stop now, Simone said. Not when I'm so close. Close to what? Having a breakdown? Rhonda shook her head. Simone, look at yourself. You've lost at least 10 pounds. You have circles under your eyes. You're jumping at every little sound. Simone wanted to argue, but she knew Rhonda was right. The toll of the deception was eating her alive. She was holding so much inside, so much rage and hurt and betrayal, and it had nowhere to go. I need to see my mother, she said suddenly. I need to talk to her. You haven't told Gloria about any of this? I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to have everything in place first. Simone set down her tea. But you're right. I need support. Real support. Not just strategy sessions with lawyers. The next day, Simone drove to her mother's house on the other side of the city. Gloria Crawford lived in a small but impeccably kept home with a garden full of roses and a porch where she spent most of her afternoons reading. She was 60 years old and had been a widow for 5 years, ever since Simone's father had passed from a heart attack. Gloria opened the door and took one look at her daughter's face. Come in, baby girl, she said. And tell me everything. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Simone had done her homework as a child, where she had told her parents about her first boyfriend, where she had cried when her father died. It felt right, somehow, to be here now. Like coming home to the place where the truth could finally come out. Simone told her mother everything. The cameras. The footage. The woman. The secret accounts. The months of pretending. Gloria listened without interrupting. Her face went through a dozen emotions, but she did not say a word until Simone was finished. Then she reached across the table and took her daughter's hands. You've been carrying this alone for too long, she said. I had to be sure. I had to have everything ready. I understand. You've always been like that. Careful. Methodical. You got that from your father. Gloria's eyes were wet. But baby girl, even the strongest people need help sometimes. You should have come to me sooner. I know. Simone's voice broke. I know, Mama. But I was so ashamed. Ashamed? Gloria's grip tightened. What do you have to be ashamed of? You didn't cheat. You didn't lie. You didn't break your vows. I should have seen it sooner. All the signs were there. The late nights. The phone calls. The excuses. I should have known. How could you have known? You trusted your husband. That's not a flaw, Simone. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. He's the one who broke that trust. He's the one who should be ashamed. Simone started to cry. Really cry for the first time since she had seen that footage. All the tears she had been holding back, all the pain she had been swallowing, came pouring out in great heaving sobs. Gloria held her daughter and let her cry. She did not try to fix it or offer solutions. She just held on and let Simone release everything she had been carrying. When the tears finally stopped, Simone felt lighter. Emptier but lighter. "What are you going to do?" Gloria asked. "I'm going to divorce him. Lawrence, my lawyer, says we're almost ready to file. Another week, maybe 2, and we'll have everything we need." "And after that?" Simone thought about it. She had been so focused on the preparation, the evidence, the legal strategy, that she had not really thought about what came after. "I'm going to rebuild my life," she said slowly. "My business is good. I have clients who believe in me, friends who support me. I'm going to take back my house, my finances, my future. And I'm going to move on." Gloria nodded. "And him? Brandon? What happens to him?" Simone's jaw tightened. "He loses everything. The house, the money, his reputation. Everyone is going to know what he did. His family, his friends, his business partners. All of it. That's a lot of anger, baby girl." "He earned it." Gloria was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised Simone. "Just make sure the anger doesn't consume you. Revenge is sweet, but it can also be poison. Don't let him take anything else from you. Not your peace. Not your joy. Not the person you're meant to become." Simone looked at her mother. "How did you do it? After Daddy died? How did you keep going?" "One day at a time," Gloria said. "And by remembering that his death wasn't the end of my story. It was just a chapter. A painful one, but not the last one." She squeezed Simone's hands. "This isn't the end of your story either. It's just a chapter. And you're the one who gets to write what comes next." Simone stayed at her mother's house until evening. They ate dinner together, talked about happier times, looked at old photo albums. By the time Simone left, she felt more like herself than she had in months. She drove home through the city streets, watching the lights flicker on in windows as the sun went down. Other people's lives. Other people's homes. Other people's secrets. Everyone had something they were hiding, she realized. Everyone had some private pain they carried alone. She was not special. She was not unique. She was just another woman dealing with a broken heart and a shattered trust. But she was also strong. Stronger than Brandon knew. Stronger than maybe she had ever known herself. When she got home, Brandon's car was in the driveway. She parked next to it and sat for a moment, gathering herself. Then she put on her mask, the one she had learned to wear so well, and went inside. Brandon was on the couch, watching television. He looked up when she came in. "There you are. I was starting to worry. I was at my mother's. I told you this morning." "All right. I forgot." He patted the cushion next to him. "Come sit with me. There's this documentary I want to watch." Simone sat down. Brandon put his arm around her. She leaned into him, playing her part, counting the days until she would not have to anymore. Soon, she thought. So very soon. The full scope of Brandon's betrayal became clear on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. Simone was in Lawrence's office, reviewing the final reports from Patricia, the financial investigator, when she saw it. A pattern she had not noticed before, buried in the credit card statements. "These hotel charges," she said, pointing at the screen. "They go back 2 years." Lawrence leaned in to look. "The same hotel? Different hotels, but always on the same days. The second Tuesday of every month. Like clockwork." They cross-referenced the dates with Simone's calendar. The second Tuesday of every month for the past 24 months. Every single one corresponded with a day Brandon had claimed to be working late or traveling for business. 2 years. He had been seeing Tiffany for 2 years. Simone thought back to where they had been 2 years ago. They had just celebrated their 6th anniversary. Brandon had taken her to dinner at a fancy restaurant and told her she was the love of his life. She had believed him. She had cried happy tears and talked about their future, about children, about growing old together. And all that time he was already with someone else. "There's more," Lawrence said, pulling up another document. Patricia found a lease agreement. "It's in Brandon's name for an apartment across town. He's been paying rent on it for 18 months. "An apartment?" Simone's voice was hollow. "He has a whole apartment I didn't know about?" "It appears so. The address matches the location of several of the hotel charges, so he may have moved their meetings there once he had a more private space." An apartment. A secret life. A whole other world that had been running parallel to hers, completely hidden, completely unknown. Simone stood up and walked to the window. The rain was coming down hard now, streaking the glass, blurring the city lights below. She watched the drops race each other down the pane and tried to make sense of everything she had learned. Her marriage had been a lie for 2 years. Maybe longer. Maybe it had always been a lie and she had just been too blind to see it. How did I not know? She asked, not really expecting an answer. How did I live with this man, sleep next to him, trust him completely, and not see any of this? Because you weren't looking, Lawrence said gently. Because you loved him and trusted him, and he used that against you. This is not your fault, Simone. You're the victim here. I don't feel like a victim. She turned to face him. I feel like a fool. You're not a fool. You're a woman who believed in her marriage. There's no shame in that. Lawrence stood and came to stand beside her. What matters now is what you do with this information. You have everything you need. The affair. The financial fraud. The hidden assets. You could file tomorrow. Tomorrow. Simone let the word sit in her mouth. Tomorrow. It seemed too soon and too far away at the same time. Or you could wait, Lawrence continued. Take more time to prepare. But I'll be honest with you, Simone. I don't think waiting is going to change anything. The evidence isn't going to get any stronger. And every day you wait is another day you're living a lie. He was right. She knew he was right. The case was airtight. The documentation was thorough. There was nothing left to find, nothing left to prepare. It was time. Let's file, she said. Monday. I want to file on Monday. Lawrence nodded. I'll have everything ready. Simone spent the weekend in a daze. She went through the motions of her life, cooking, cleaning, working on designs for her clients, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. On Monday everything would change. On Monday the mask would come off. Brandon seemed oblivious. He laughed at his own jokes. He talked about their plans for the summer. He made love to her on Saturday night, and Simone lay there afterward, staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing at all. This was the last time, she thought. The last time she would let him touch her. The last time she would pretend to be his wife. Sunday night she did not sleep. She sat in her home office, looking at the folder of evidence, reading through the documents one more time. Making sure she had not missed anything. Making sure she was ready. At 6 a.m. on Monday she got dressed. She chose her clothes carefully. A bright red blouse, her best-fitting pants, heels that made her feel powerful. She did her makeup with precision, making sure every line was perfect. She wore the earrings her mother had given her for her 30th birthday, small gold hoops that caught the light when she moved. When she came downstairs, Brandon was in the kitchen making coffee. You look nice, he said. Big meeting today? Something like that. She poured herself a cup of coffee and took a sip. I'll be home late tonight. Don't wait up. Everything okay? Everything's fine. She kissed him on the cheek, the last time she would ever do so. Have a good day. She drove to Lawrence's office, where the paperwork was waiting. She signed everything. The petition for divorce. The financial disclosures. The request for emergency custody of marital assets. The restraining order that would prevent Brandon from accessing their joint accounts once he was served. By noon it was done. The papers were filed. The process server was on his way to Brandon's office. Simone sat in Lawrence's conference room and waited. At 2:17 p.m. her phone rang. Brandon's name on the screen. She let it ring. It rang again. And again. And again. Then the text messages started. What is this? Simone, call me. This is crazy. We need to talk. She read each message, then put her phone face down on the table. It had begun. Simone went home at 6 p.m. Brandon's car was already there, parked at an angle in the driveway like he had pulled in too fast. The lights were on in every room. Through the front window she could see him pacing back and forth in the living room. She sat in her car for a full minute, gathering herself. Then she got out and walked to the front door. Brandon met her before she could even turn the handle. Simone. His face was pale, his eyes wild. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you all day. What is this? What is happening? She walked past him into the living room. He followed, grabbing her arm. Don't touch me, she said, and her voice was so cold that he let go immediately. Simone, please. This has to be a mistake. The papers, the accusations, none of this makes sense. Can we just talk about this? There's nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about? His voice rose. You're accusing me of fraud. Of infidelity. You're trying to take everything from me. How is that nothing to talk about? Simone turned to face him. She had imagined this moment so many times over the past month. She had rehearsed what she would say, how she would say it. But now that it was here, all those carefully planned words seemed unnecessary. I know about Tiffany, she said simply. Brandon's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion. Recognition. Fear. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice wavered. Don't. Simone's tone was sharp. Don't lie to me anymore. I know about the affair. I know about the apartment. I know about the secret credit cards and the money you've been hiding. I know everything. How? He swallowed hard. How do you know about? I have cameras, Brandon. In this house. In the living room. The kitchen. The hallway. She watched his face drain of color. I've seen her here. Wearing my robe. Walking through my house like she belongs here. I have footage going back 2 months. Brandon sat down heavily on the couch. His hands were shaking. Simone, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. You've been having an affair for 2 years. You've been lying to me every single day. You've been stealing from our accounts, hiding money, building a whole other life that I knew nothing about. Her voice was steady, calm, almost detached. I'm done explaining. I'm done listening to explanations. I just want you out of my house. Your house. A flash of anger crossed his face. This is my house too. Not for long. My lawyer filed for emergency custody of marital assets. Until the divorce is finalized, I have control of this property. You can take your things and go to your apartment. The one you've been paying for with money that should have been ours. Brandon stood up. He was trying to regain control, she could see it. Trying to find an angle, a strategy, a way out. Simone, listen to me. We can work this out. Whatever you think happened, whatever you think you saw, it's not what it looks like. Tiffany is just, she's nobody. She means nothing to me. You're my wife. I love you. You love me? Simone laughed and there was no warmth in it. You've been sleeping with another woman in our bed for 2 years. You gave her a credit card with our money. You rented her an apartment. That's not love, Brandon. That's not even close to love. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we can get past this. We can go to counseling, work things out. Please, Simone. Please don't throw away 8 years of marriage over this. I'm not the one who threw it away. She picked up her purse. I'm going to stay with my mother tonight. I expect you to be gone by tomorrow morning. Leave your key on the counter. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. She walked to the front door. Her hand was on the handle when Brandon spoke again. What about the business? My deals? My partners? If this gets out, if people find out? Simone turned back to look at him. He was not thinking about her, she realized. Not thinking about their marriage or the hurt he had caused. He was thinking about himself. About his reputation. About his money. That's not my problem anymore, she said. You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat. She opened the door and walked out. Behind her, she heard Brandon call her name, but she did not stop. She got in her car and drove away, watching in the rearview mirror as he stood in the doorway, growing smaller and smaller until he disappeared from view. It was over. The confrontation she had dreaded for months. The moment of truth. And she had survived it. Simone drove to her mother's house with the windows down, letting the cool evening air wash over her face. She was shaking, she realized. Not from fear or anger, but from relief. The weight she had been carrying for so long was finally lifting. The lies were over. The pretending was done. Gloria was waiting for her on the porch as if she had known Simone was coming. She did not say anything when Simone got out of the car. She just opened her arms and Simone walked into them. It's done, Simone said. I told him everything. He knows. How do you feel? Simone thought about it. Free, she said finally. For the first time in months, I feel free. They went inside and Gloria made tea and they sat in the kitchen and talked until midnight. About the confrontation. About what came next. About the future Simone was finally able to imagine. It would not be easy, she knew. The divorce would be messy. Brandon would fight. There would be lawyers and court dates and difficult conversations. But she was ready. She was finally ready. The weeks that followed were chaos. Brandon, true to form, did not go quietly. He hired his own lawyer, an aggressive man in expensive suits who tried to paint Simone as a paranoid, vindictive wife. He claimed the cameras were an invasion of privacy. He claimed the financial records had been obtained illegally. He claimed Simone had driven him to the affair by being cold and distant. None of it worked. Lawrence had built too strong a case. Every document was obtained legally. Every piece of evidence was admissible. The cameras were in Simone's own home, installed to protect herself, and there was nothing illegal about a wife documenting what happened in her own living room. The court proceedings were brutal. Simone sat through hours of testimony, listening to Brandon lie and deflect and blame everyone but himself. She watched his lawyer try to twist her words, to make her seem unstable, to suggest that she had somehow provoked her husband's infidelity. But she held firm. Every time they attacked, Lawrence countered. Every lie Brandon told was exposed with evidence. Every accusation was refuted with facts. The turning point came when Tiffany Morris was called to testify. She was smaller than Simone had expected. Blonde and thin and nervous, sitting in the witness chair like she wanted to disappear. She was wearing a simple green dress and no jewelry, trying to look innocent and unassuming. It did not work. Under questioning, Tiffany admitted to the affair. Admitted she knew Brandon was married. Admitted she had been to the house, worn Simone's robe, used the credit card Brandon had given her. She tried to minimize her role, to suggest she was just as much a victim as Simone, but the evidence spoke for itself. Simone watched her with cold eyes, feeling nothing. She had thought she would feel rage seeing this woman in person. The woman who had helped destroy her marriage. The woman who had walked through her home and slept in her bed and spent her money. But there was no rage. Just a distant sort of pity. Tiffany was pathetic. A woman who had settled for another woman's husband, for stolen moments and secret meetings, for a life built on lies. Whatever happened to her, she had brought it on herself. After Tiffany's testimony, things moved quickly. Brandon's business partners found out about the affair and the financial fraud. They were not pleased. Real estate development required trust, connections, a spotless reputation. Brandon had none of those things anymore. Within a month, he was pushed out of his own company. The partners bought him out at a fraction of what his shares were worth, citing conduct unbecoming and breach of fiduciary duty. He tried to fight it, but he did not have the resources or the allies. His family found out next. His mother called Simone, crying, apologizing for her son's behavior. Simone listened politely and said nothing. She did not need apologies. She did not need sympathy. She just needed to be done. The divorce was finalized 3 months after the papers were filed. Simone got the house. She got 60% of the marital assets, including the money Brandon had hidden in his secret accounts. She got full control of her business, which had never been more successful. She got her freedom. Brandon got the debt. The credit cards he had racked up in his name were his problem now. The apartment lease was his responsibility. The shattered reputation, the lost business, the broken relationships, all of it was his to carry. Simone signed the final papers in Lawrence's office on a bright Tuesday morning. When she walked out, Rhonda was waiting for her in the lobby. "Well?" Rhonda asked. "It's done." Simone held up the papers. "I'm officially divorced." Rhonda threw her arms around her. "How do you feel?" Simone thought about it. She expected to feel triumphant, vindicated, victorious, but mostly what she felt was tired. Tired and relieved and ready to move on. "I feel like I want to go home and take a nap," she said. "And then maybe open a bottle of wine and watch something ridiculous on television." Rhonda laughed. "I think you've earned that." They walked out of the building together into the sunshine. The city was bright and busy around them, full of people going about their lives, unaware of what had just happened in that office upstairs. Simone took a deep breath. The air smelled like spring. Like new beginnings. "What now?" Rhonda asked. "Now?" Simone smiled, a real smile, the first one in months. "Now I start over." 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Simone barely recognized her own life. Her interior design business had exploded. Word had spread about her work, her attention to detail, her ability to transform spaces into something beautiful and personal. She had more clients than she could handle, a waiting list that stretched for months, a reputation that opened doors wherever she went. She had hired 2 assistants and moved into a bigger office. She had been featured in 3 design magazines and interviewed on a local morning show. She had won an award from the city's Chamber of Commerce for Outstanding Woman in Business. The house was different too. She had remodeled it from top to bottom, erasing every trace of Brandon. New paint, new furniture, new everything. The burgundy robe was gone, donated to charity. The bedroom where he had brought his mistress was completely transformed, with new flooring, new windows, a new bed that had never known anyone's touch but hers. It felt like her home now. Really hers. For the first time since she had bought it, she felt at peace within its walls. Rhonda came over every Sunday for brunch and they talked and laughed and celebrated how far Simone had come. Gloria visited often too, proud of her daughter, grateful that the pain was finally behind her. Brandon, meanwhile, had fallen far. Simone heard about him through mutual friends, though she never asked. He had moved back in with his parents, unable to afford his own place after losing his job and his savings. Tiffany had left him, of course, once the money and the status were gone. He was working at a small real estate firm now, a fraction of what he had been, trying to rebuild from nothing. Part of Simone felt satisfied by his downfall. He had earned it. Every loss, every humiliation, every struggle was the direct result of his own choices. But a larger part of her felt nothing at all. Brandon was her past. He was the chapter of her life that had ended, the story she had closed. She did not need to watch him suffer to feel better about herself. She just needed to move forward. And that was exactly what she was doing. One evening in October, Simone attended an art gallery opening downtown. One of her clients was a painter, and Simone had designed her studio space. The gallery was showing her work, and Simone had promised to come and support her. The space was beautiful, filled with light and color and people sipping wine and admiring the paintings. Simone wore an emerald green dress that made her dark skin glow. She felt good, confident. She was standing in front of a large abstract painting, trying to figure out what it was supposed to represent, when someone spoke beside her. "I think it's a sunset," a male voice said. "Or maybe a forest fire. I honestly can't tell." Simone turned. The man was tall, with warm brown skin and kind eyes and a smile that reached all the way up to his forehead. He was wearing a blue blazer over a white shirt, no tie, relaxed but put together. "I was thinking it might be a volcano," Simone said. "Or possibly spaghetti." The man laughed. "Spaghetti. I like that." He extended his hand. Derek Lawson. "I'm an architect. I designed the building this gallery is in." Simone Crawford. She shook his hand. "Interior designer. I designed the studio where these paintings were made." "No kidding." Derek's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "I've actually heard of your work. The Morrison House, right? The one in Architectural Digest." "That was mine, yes. It was stunning. The way you used light in that space, the flow from room to room. Really impressive." Simone felt a warmth spread through her chest. Not the desperate, needy warmth of wanting validation. Just the pleasant warmth of being seen. Being recognized for her work by someone who understood it. "Thank you," she said. "Your building is pretty impressive too. The sight lines, the way the gallery spaces connect. It's a good design. Just good. I could tell you it's brilliant, but I don't want to give you a big head." Derek laughed again. "Fair enough. Can I buy you a glass of wine and we can discuss the finer points of architectural modesty?" Simone looked at him. He was attractive, she realized. Not in a flashy way, but in a solid, genuine way. He had the kind of face that would still be interesting in 20 years. The kind of eyes that seemed to actually see you when they looked at you. "One glass," she said. "And only if you promise not to use the word synergy in conversation." "Deal." They talked for 2 hours. About architecture and design. About their careers and their struggles. About the city and its changes. About nothing important and everything important at once. Simone did not tell him about Brandon. Did not tell him about the divorce or the betrayal or the long months of pain. That was her past, and Derek, whoever he turned out to be, was potentially something else. Something new. When the gallery started closing, Derek walked her to her car. "I had a really nice time," he said. Would you want to get dinner sometime?" "No pressure. Just dinner." Simone thought about it. A year ago, the idea of dating anyone would have seemed impossible. 6 months ago, it would have seemed terrifying. But now, standing in the cool October air, looking at a man who made her laugh and seemed genuinely interested in who she was. "I'd like that," she said. Derek's smile widened. "Great. I'll call you." He waited until she was in her car before walking away, waving as she pulled out of the parking lot. Simone watched him in her rearview mirror, a small smile on her face. She did not know what would happen with Derek. Maybe they would have dinner once and never see each other again. Maybe they would become friends. Maybe something more. But whatever happened, she was ready for it. Ready to take a chance. Ready to let someone in. Ready for her next chapter to begin. 1 year after the divorce, Simone stood on the balcony of her house and watched the sun rise over the city. It was early, barely 6 a.m., and the world was quiet. Birds were starting to sing in the trees outside. The light was pale and golden, creeping across the rooftops, painting everything in soft colors. She held a cup of coffee in her hands, feeling its warmth seep into her palms. The mug was new, something she had bought just for herself, with a pattern of geometric shapes in bright blue and green. She had thrown out all the mugs from her marriage months ago. Everything in her life now was something she had chosen, something that was hers alone. It had been a year of healing. A year of rebuilding. A year of discovering who Simone Crawford really was, separate from the wife she had been, separate from the betrayal she had survived. And she liked who she was finding. She was stronger than she had known. More resilient. More capable. The woman who had sat in her car 2 years ago, watching footage of her husband's betrayal, seemed like a stranger now. Someone from another life, another world. Simone barely recognized her. Derek came out onto the balcony carrying his own cup of coffee. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt and sweatpants, his feet bare, his face still soft with sleep. They had been seeing each other for 10 months now. Not rushing anything. Not making promises they could not keep. Just taking it one day at a time, one dinner at a time, one sunrise at a time. "You're up early," he said, standing beside her. "Couldn't sleep." Simone took a sip of her coffee. "Too much on my mind." "Good things or bad things?" She thought about it. "Good things, I think. Just big things. About the future. About what comes next." Derek nodded. He did not push. He never pushed. That was one of the things she loved about him. He gave her space to be herself, to move at her own pace, to process things in her own time. He knew about Brandon now. About the affair and the divorce and everything that had come with it. Simone had told him on their 4th date, deciding that if they were going to be anything to each other, he deserved to know the truth. He had listened without judgment. Had asked questions without prying. Had told her she was one of the strongest people he had ever met, and that whoever had hurt her did not deserve another moment of her thoughts. She was starting to believe him. "I've been thinking," she said, "about forgiveness." Forgiveness for who? For myself mostly. She watched a bird hop along the railing of the neighboring building. For a long time I felt like I should have seen it coming. Like if I had just paid more attention, been more suspicious, looked harder at the signs, I could have stopped it before it got so bad. You couldn't have known. I know that now. But knowing it and believing it are different things. She turned to look at him. I spent so long being angry at Brandon. At Tiffany. At myself. And the anger felt good for a while. It felt powerful. But it was also exhausting. Carrying all that weight around. And now. Simone took a deep breath. Now I think I'm ready to let it go. Not forgive them exactly. What they did was wrong and they should live with the consequences. But forgive myself. For trusting. For believing. For being human. Derek set down his coffee and took her hand. His fingers were strong and gentle. "That's a big step," he said. "I know." She squeezed his hand. "But I think it's time. I don't want to spend the rest of my life defined by what happened to me. I want to be defined by what I choose to do next." They stood together in silence, watching the sun climb higher. The city was waking up around them. Traffic starting. People walking dogs. Life continuing the way it always did. Later that day, Simone went to work. She had a meeting with a new client, a young couple buying their first home, eager to make it their own. She walked them through her process, showed them samples and sketches, listened to their hopes and dreams for the space they were building together. They reminded her of herself and Brandon a lifetime ago. Young and optimistic and full of plans. But she did not feel sad looking at them. She felt hopeful. Because even though her own story had not turned out the way she expected, that did not mean theirs would not. After the meeting, Rhonda came by the office with lunch. They ate together at Simone's desk, laughing about nothing, enjoying each other's company the way they always had. "You look different lately," Rhonda said, studying her friend's face. "Lighter. Happier." "I feel lighter," Simone admitted. "Like I've finally put down something heavy I was carrying." "The divorce stuff?" "All of it. The anger, the hurt, the constant thinking about what went wrong. I'm just done with it. It happened. It was terrible. But it's over now and I have so much to look forward to." Rhonda smiled. "I'm so proud of you, you know that?" "I know. You tell me every week." "Because it's true every week." That evening, Simone drove to her mother's house for dinner. Gloria had made her famous pot roast, the one Simone had loved since childhood. They ate together at the kitchen table, talking about work and family and the small details of their lives. "How's Derek?" Gloria asked, with the not-so-subtle tone of a mother hoping her daughter had found happiness. "He's good. Really good." Simone smiled. "I'm not saying he's the one or anything. I don't even know if I believe in the one anymore. But he makes me happy. He makes me feel like myself. And right now that's enough." Gloria reached across the table and took her hand. "That's all I've ever wanted for you, baby girl. To be happy. To be yourself. Everything else is just details." Simone squeezed her mother's hand. "Thank you, Mama. For everything. For being there when I needed you. For not judging me when I fell apart. For believing I could put myself back together." "That was never in doubt," Gloria said. "You've always been a fighter, Simone. Even when you didn't know it. Even when you thought you were broken. You were always strong enough to heal. Driving home that night, Simone thought about the journey she had taken. From the moment she installed those cameras to the moment she signed the divorce papers to this moment, driving through the city with the windows down and the radio playing something soft. She had been betrayed. She had been lied to. She had been hurt in ways she never thought she would survive. But she had survived. More than survived, she had grown. She had built a life that was entirely her own. A business she was proud of. A home she loved. Friends who supported her. A family who believed in her. And maybe, just maybe, a man who could be part of her future. She thought about Brandon, out there somewhere, living with the consequences of his choices. She did not wish him well exactly. But she did not wish him harm either. He was simply irrelevant. A footnote in her story. A chapter that had ended. And she was ready to write the next one. When Simone got home, she walked through her house slowly, appreciating each room she had transformed. The living room where she had once watched footage of betrayal, now filled with bright colors and comfortable furniture. The kitchen where she cooked meals for herself and her friends. The bedroom that was finally, truly hers. She opened the door to the balcony and stepped outside. The night was cool and clear, with stars visible above the city lights. She could hear distant music from somewhere, laughter, the sounds of other people living their lives. Simone closed her eyes and breathed deep. She had survived the worst year of her life. She had rebuilt everything she had lost. She had proven to herself that she was stronger than she ever knew. And now, finally, she was ready to be happy again. The future was wide open, full of possibilities she could not even imagine. And for the first time in a very long time, Simone was looking forward to discovering what it held. She smiled, alone on her balcony under the stars, and whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning."